Welcome to the Explainer, everyone. I am so thrilled to have you all here, kids, parents, the whole family, because today we are diving into something absolutely crucial. We're looking at the actual blueprint for making our homes the happiest, warmest places on Earth. I mean, just think about what a truly happy home feels like for a second. It's that feeling of walking through the front door and just breathing a huge sigh of relief, right? It's the sound of warm laughter bubbling up from the kitchen. It's that feeling of total safety, knowing that no matter what crazy things went wrong out in the world today, you are completely loved right where you are. So let's jump right into the source material and figure out exactly how we can cultivate that kind of true tenderness and love right in our very own living rooms. Now, I want you to imagine a time when you did literally everything you were told. Maybe you tackled all your homework the second you got home, you did your chores without even being asked, you kept your room perfectly spotless, and you didn't break a single rule all day long. But deep down, you still had this kind of empty, yucky feeling, like something was just missing. It's kind of like playing a family board game where everyone followed the rules to the letter, but nobody smiled, everyone argued over tiny technicalities, and by the end, everyone just wanted to storm off to their rooms and shut the door. Have you ever had a day like that? Well, it introduces us to a pretty fascinating idea. That rules alone, as good and as important as they are, simply aren't quite enough to make a happy, thriving life.
Which brings us to Section 1, Jesus and the Young Man, a story about doing everything right.
So there's this really famous story from our text about a guy who thought he had everything totally figured out. He confidently walks right up to Jesus and boldly declares, "All these things have I kept from my youth up. What lack I yet?" You can almost picture him puffing his chest out a little bit here, right? This young man had followed all the religious rules his entire life. He was like the undisputed champion of rule following. He basically came to Jesus expecting a gold star, just wanting to check off that final box on his to-do list so he could graduate at the top of his class. But Jesus gently pointed out that despite all his perfect rule-keeping, a massive, crucial piece of the puzzle was entirely missing from his heart. The rules were all there, sure, but the heart behind them, not so much.
Think about the 10 Commandments for a second. That's the ultimate set of rules this young man was trying so incredibly hard to follow. They actually divide perfectly into two simple buckets. The first 4 commandments are all about our duty of loving God supremely. And the last 6, they present the requirement of loving our neighbors as ourselves. When you step back and look at it this way, you realize that the foundation of every single rule isn't just about keeping a strict list of bad things to avoid. No, the foundation of every rule is actually just love. And in a modern family context, loving our neighbors isn't just about the person living next door. It's about the person sleeping in the bunk bed below you, or the person sitting right across from you at the breakfast table.
Let's move on to Section 2, the missing piece, moving beyond just the rules. Because as our source text points out, how many of us are truly, sincerely, and heartily doing this? True godliness requires a whole lot more than just checking off a list of do's and don'ts. It requires what the text calls fervent charity. That means active, unselfish love that shows tender kindness, sympathy, and compassion to the others in your home. Now, often when we hear the word charity, we immediately think about dropping coins in a donation box or giving away old coats. But in this context, fervent charity, it was about being actively warm. It means when your little brother accidentally knocks over your giant, super complicated block tower, instead of yelling at him, you take a deep breath, offer a smile, and ask him to help you rebuild it. It's not just sitting quietly in your room, staying out of trouble. It's going out of your way to be a source of real kindness and comfort to your family. Love is the true basis of godliness. In fact, our text tells us that no man actually has love for God, no matter what he might say or loudly profess out loud, unless he has unselfish love for his brother. It is a complete package deal. You literally cannot sing loudly at church claiming to truly love God if you're going to turn right around and be cruel to your sibling in the back of the minivan on the ride home. The way we treat the people closest to us is the truest, absolute test of what is actually living inside our hearts.
And that takes us to Section 3, avoiding Satan's battleground, the danger of meanness and criticism.
So what exactly happens when we choose to be critical instead of loving? Well, the source text aggressively warns us against being critical and exacting. When we do that, when we're mean or constantly waiting to point out every little tiny mistake our siblings make, we actually push our loved ones onto what the text calls Satan's battleground. I mean, just spend a second thinking about how miserable a home feels when everyone is just waiting to pounce on someone else's mess-ups. Instead of a cozy, happy sanctuary where you can relax, your living room becomes this cold, strict battlefield. It turns into a place run by wicked, winged rule enforcers, where everyone is just walking on eggshells, desperately defending themselves.
That is exactly how dangerous and destructive a lack of sympathy and tenderness can be.
The text lays down a pretty heavy truth here. God will deal with us just as we deal with the younger members of his family. It explains that anyone who is quick to condemn, dishearten, or discourage others will eventually be brought over the exact same ground. It's a really profound lesson in empathy, you know? If we are hard-hearted to our siblings or friends who are struggling, God sometimes allows us to feel the exact same sadness and discouragement that they felt. He lets us experience that heavy, sinking feeling so that our stony hearts will soften until we finally abhor our own harshness and actually learn to be incredibly gentle with others.
So how do we fix this? Section 4, building a loving home, bringing in the kingdom of heaven.
How do we completely change the temperature in the room and create a warm, protective atmosphere? The text says the converting power of God must come to every soul so we can be filled with the compassion of Christ. Now, converting power is really just a big way of saying we need to let Jesus come in and completely change our grumpy, selfish hearts into kind, beating ones. When we realize we've been acting a little too critical, we have to consciously open that door for him. That converting power is literally the only thing that transforms that miserable, cold battlefield we just talked about into the warm, happy kingdom of heaven right there in your very own kitchen.
And this all builds into a super practical, step-by-step instruction manual for all of us today. Step 1, stop condemning others. We have got to put away that magnifying glass we use to constantly find our family's faults. Just throw away the judge's gavel. Step 2, show tender kindness to those struggling. When your sister spills a massive cup of milk all over the floor, offer her sympathy and a bunch of paper towels instead of rolling your eyes or teasing her. And step 3, surround your home life with an atmosphere of love. Don't just sit around waiting for the house to feel happy. Be the thermostat. Set the temperature yourself by actively bringing joy and grace into your environment every single day.
There is this beautiful verse that perfectly summarizes everything we've been talking about. And above all things, have fervent charity among yourselves, for charity shall cover the multitude of sins. It is the ultimate cozy reminder that active, warm love, that fervent charity we defined earlier, is the absolute best shield for our families. It acts like a giant, warm blanket, just covering over mistakes, healing hurts, and pulling everybody closely and safely together.
So, I want to leave you with a direct challenge today. What is one way you can bring the kingdom of heaven into your home today? Don't just think about it as a nice idea. Actually go do it. Choose tenderness, choose kindness, and choose to practice that active, unselfish love with your families right now. Be the person who totally transforms the atmosphere. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I seriously cannot wait to see how you completely transform your homes this week.